Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku has the ability of Blacklight Virus Prototype Part 2. Before we start, please go support DummyWearingAHoodie for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Chapter 5.1 Entrance Exams and Girls. Would you calm down, Izuku? You're going to do fine in the entrance exams tomorrow. Mei says to a nervous Izuku as she screwed back together the parts of the new baby that just exploded. Can you hand me the pliers, please? She pointed to a table near Izuku. They are currently in Mei's room workshop. She asked Izuku to come over to help her test the new baby she had created. Was supposed to be a gauntlets that allow the user to use laser beams to shoot at enemies and thrusters that let the wearer fly. An idea of Izuku inspired from a comic named The Invincible Iron Man he read a while ago. Mei was skeptical at first, but when she found out that the main character was an inventor, she snatched all the copies from Izuku's room and made a plan to recreate the armor on the hands, which were to her part was the easiest part to recreate. Easy for you to say, Ms. I already took my entrance exam a week ago. Izuku deadpanned as he grabbed the pliers and gave it to her. It had been months and now, only a day before the UA entrance exams. Izuku had been both excited and nervous. If you rate it in percentage, it'd be 10% excited and 90% nervous. Nah, screw that, he was 100% nervous. He may have been more confident and grew stronger, but deep inside he is still a 15-year-old kid about to take an exam for high school. He couldn't help but worry. What if I screw up and could do good? What if the entrance exam was a lot harder than what the rumors say? What if he was cut off his mutterings when a book hit him at the face, comically making him fall down? Would you shut up? Mei uncharacteristically snapped at Izuku. She was mostly eccentric and boisterous, she rarely gets irritated, and this was the third time she snapped at Izuku. First was when Izuku forgot to bring the part she needed for a bay she was working on 4 months ago. Second was when Izuku accidentally destroyed her goggles. Just thinking about the latter and what she did to him makes him shiver in fear. Okay. I deserved that. Izuku groaned out and stood up while removing the book on his face. He rubbed his aching face with his right hand. Sorry about that, he said, still wincing as he massaged his aching nose. Ow, looks like my nose is broken. Again. He began using his quirk to heal his nose. Izuku saw her, took a deep breath and pinched the bridge of her nose. You really need to calm down, Izuku. You'll do fine tomorrow, and knowing you, I'll bet you will finish the written portion of the test under 10 minutes. She said, giving him a small smile as she looked back at her baby and began rearranging the wires. And you really need to stop with the muttering. It will annoy those around you and in the future it'll give away your location. She said. Yeah, sorry, force of habit. He said sheepishly while making sure his nose wasn't broken anymore and sighed in relief when he felt it was no longer broken. Sorry. I just feel nervous, no scratch that. I'm anxious. But thanks for believing in me. He said and smiled widely. Yeah, you're welcome. Now scram, it's almost 6 and Auntie Inko will be furious when you don't go home now. She said, standing up and opening her door. The greenette just chuckled and walked towards the door. Okay. Thanks for having me anyway. See you later. Mei, he said as he exited the door and looked back at her. Wish me luck for tomorrow. You won't be needing luck, Mr. Mercer. She said, and Izuku groaned, but they both laughed. It had been an inside joke between them that Izuku was basically a 29-year-old in a 15-year-old kid's body. And Izuku, having all his memories in Alex's life, had always been a teasing tool for Mei, especially when she found out that one of the memories was an intimate moment between Alex and a chick named Karen Parker. By the way, you owe me a box of chocolates bars. She said nonchalantly, making Izuku's eyes widen as plates. What? What do you mean I owe you a box of choco? You know what, never mind. You'll have it next week. He said, still frowning, which made Mei giggle. She knew her best friend was the best. Thanks, Izu, she said sweetly and hugged him. If Izuku was still the same person from the time they first met, he would bet he would have fainted there. But now, it didn't bother him anymore. Though he still blushed with the contact. Yeah. Whatever. See ya, he said as she let him go and started running home. He heard her yell goodbye and he smiled. It was almost 6 and he still needs to prepare his stuff for the entrance exams tomorrow. The first step on becoming a hero, tomorrow's going to be a blast, he thought as he remembered what Mei said. He smiled softly and ran home. I'll do my best. Time to prepare for the exam of his life. The next day, Izuku woke up that day and began to do his morning routine. He began by going to the bathroom and brushed his teeth, washed his face and went to the dining area to get breakfast. As expected, he saw the table was full. There he saw was pancakes, bacon, eggs and orange juice. He also noticed a note on the top of the pitcher. Izuku, I'm sorry I can send you off to UA and personally wish you luck. I had an early shift today in work. But always remember that whatever happens I will always be here supporting you. Good luck on the entrance exam and make me proud. I love you, my little hero. Mom 3. DS. I'm pretty sure your dad will be so proud of you, wherever he is now. Izuku smiled and felt sad about reading about his dad. Though he never met him since his dad died before he was born after a villain attacked his workplace. And yes. I made it that Izuku's biological father is dead. I really don't like the idea's theories that All For One was Izuku's dad. But I do have a plan for AFO in the future. Because of that, Inko had been working jobs after jobs to support Izuku and raise him well. He may not met his dad, but with all the stories of him loving his mom, makes Izuku think that he would be proud of him developing a quirk and training for UA. Putting the note down, he started to dig in and thought about the exams. He wouldn't lie to say that he wasn't feeling nervous, but he can also say that he's excited and ecstatic to the thought to be able to use his quirk. Izuku had worked hard to master his quirk in just months to be able to keep up with his peers, such as Bakugo who had their quirks for a long time, unlike him who just developed a quirk 8 months before the entrance exam. Now that the time for the entrance exams had come, he would do his best to pass it. It was not only for him but also for his mom, for his dad and most importantly, for Alex. He was the first person to believe in the Greenette's dream of becoming a hero. Izuku would use his quirk to fulfill his goal and make them proud. Also, he would want to see the hero that he encountered in the abandoned warehouse in UA. After that encounter, he looked up for heroes that matched the description: black costume, yellow goggles and scarf, which had resulted to be Shota Izawa, the erasure hero. Eraserhead. He was a teacher in UA, and he was known to expel students who he sees no potential, and his recent expulsion was a whole class. It made Izuku even more nervous and excited. Nervous because who wouldn't? Excited because the hero met him firsthand and told Izuku that the hero would wait for him in UA. Meaning Eraserhead saw potential in him and it made him happy. After eating breakfast and quickly washing the dishes, Izuku took a shower and changed into his middle school uniform. He made sure he got everything he needed including his UA admission form, pencils, paper etc. He placed his backpack and went his way to the station. As Izuku arrived to his destination, he couldn't help but feel awed by the size of UA. It was double, no triple the size of Aldera Middle School. He saw May students from various schools going inside differing in shapes and sizes. Mutation quirks A. He thought as he saw a tall guy with 6 arms attached in a web-like skin making it look like a frog's feet walk by. Some are chatting as he saw a boy with spiky red hair and a pink-skinned and haired girl talking to each other. Some are calm and thinking to themselves seeing a raven-headed boy walk inside, and some are nervous, noting a brown-haired girl looking nervous, seeing her slightly shaking and worried expression. Seeing a nervous person made his heroic instincts kick in and decided to approach her to help her calm down. But as he was about to walk towards her, he was stopped when he heard the voice of the last person he wants to see today. "Fuck off," Deku, a loud voice from behind him yelled, making him groan and roll his eyes. He boringly looked behind him and saw Katsuki Bakugo with his usual scowling face. "Great, just the guy I want to see," Izuku thought sarcastically, hating the fact that the blonde saw him. "Don't stand in my way, or do you want to die?" The blonde said, walking past him and bumping his shoulder to Izuku's, which didn't even budge. "Nice to see you too, Bakugo," Izuku said sarcastically while shaking his head. "He never changes," he whispered and inwardly sighed. As he was about to step forward to enter, he noticed a slightly uneven walkway. He stepped to the side to avoid getting tripped. That would be embarrassing and it would be ridiculous. I mean, who the hell would trip on a crowded area? In the multiverse, all Izukus from different universes simultaneously sneezed violently before tripping. Here goes nothing. He enters UA and went to the room where they give the written exam is held, not noticing a pair of blue eyes watching him enter with a solemn look. Young Midoriya, All Might in his skeletal form, whispered as he saw the familiar green mop of hair of one Izuku Midoriya enter the room where the written portion of the exam is being held. He remembered once again how he rejected the boy's dream, and he'll admit he was happy that the boy didn't listen to him and pursue his dream of becoming a hero. But he couldn't help but be worried about the quirkless boy. Toshinori know what the practical exam is about, and seeing how hard it was to pass that portion without a quirk. He sighed and began to walk towards the teacher's lounge to wait for the practical exams, slowly forming into his muscle form as he got out of the examinee's line of sight. "Though I doubt you would pass the practical exam without a quirk, I wish you good luck, young Midoriya." An hour later, wow, who would have thought that the written portion was that easy? Izuku thought as he headed towards the waiting room where all examinees will be instructed about the practical test. Well, Izuku wasn't lying about how easy the test is for him. He basically knew most of the answers, since he have memories of Alex coincidentally taking an exam with the same questions in his college entrance exam back in his time. Though the same can be said to most of the examinees in his room were sweating bullets as they answered their papers. When he reached his seat number, he groaned when he saw who his seatmate was. "Wanna guess?" "Yup, Katsuki freaking Bakugo." Though it was kinda understandable looking around, the examinees were seated with their schoolmates. I guess the seats placed schoolmates with next to each other to prevent awkwardness. Sighing, Izuku just sat next to Bakugo who growled Deku seeing him, but he just ignored it and began reading the handout given to them. After 20 minutes and the seats are filled, Hisashi Yamada aka present Mick walked to the podium. "Welcome one and all to my live show, everybody say hey," he said, yelled to the examinees and placed his hand to his ear, expecting someone to greet back. The examinees just stayed quiet while some just rubbed their ears. Izuku would have responded, but he was too busy of making sure his eardrum don't drop to the ground because of the loud noise. "Now that's ear splitting, no pun intended," Izuku said while rubbing his finger in his right ear trying to stop the ringing keyword. Trying making some of the examinees snicker. Not getting the reaction he wanted, Present Mick continued. "Tough crowd, now pay attention, listeners, will be testing your mettle by running a 10-minute practice run at our replica city district." As he said this, the screen behind him showed letters AG. "You will be separated in groups and everyone will gather at the designated area after the presentation." That's where Bakugo said a word. "So, they don't intend on letting friends or classmates cooperate with each other, huh?" Izuku looked at the blonde's direction and saw that his handout say section BTCH. "Probably a setup so I don't get to crush you," he growled, and Izuku just snorted. "Crush me? Don't make me laugh." Izuku then looked at his handout and saw that he was assigned in section D. He kept his eyes on his handout as Present Mick continued. "We'll be placing a large number of villains over the battlefield. And they'll appear in 3 different varieties, with point values scaled according to difficulty using each of your individual quirks. Dispatch as many villains as you can. Your goal, listeners, is to rack up a high score." Izuku heard Bakugo chuckle evilly and knowing said blonde, "It's probably just him liking the idea of blowing up things. And don't think of attacking any other competitors or any of that anti-hero stuff, that's against the rules, Kappas." Izuku was expecting the pro-hero explain the next part when he was interrupted by a loud, stiff voice. "Excuse me, may I ask a question?" Izuku saw the guy, who was tall, had short dark blue hair, flattened neatly down and parted on the right side of his head, a small patch completely shaved near the base of his head, and rather square eyes which matched the notably pointed shape of his jaw. He was kinda stiff, which Izuku just shrugged off and went back and read the handout, but still listening. On the handout, there are clearly 4 types of villains listed. Such an error would be the height of embarrassment for a top-tier National Academy of UA's caliber. "The reason we are seated here today is because we seek guidance on the oath to becoming model heroes," the stiff guy said, making Izuku mentally roll his eyes. "Elites." He sighed and heard Bakugo grunt in agreement. "Moreover, what's with you?" "Yeah, you, curly-haired kid," he said, pointing to Izuku who still haven't raised his head. "Are you even paying attention? If you can't take this seriously." He was cut off when Izuku raised his head and looked at him boredly. "Sorry, did you say something?" Izuku said in a bored tone, making the tall guy face fold comically. The green-haired boy's reaction made most of the examinees snicker, most notably the red-haired guy, the pink-skinned girl, the bob-haired girl, a guy with purple balls as hairs, and surprisingly Bakugo who was laughing loudly. "Deku or not, that was funny." What? Weren't you listening?" the tall boy said, blushing in embarrassment. "I was. But then you started interrupting Present Mick, who was clearly going to the next type of villain when you interrupted him." Izuku looked at Present Mick who nodded and continued. "Sit down and keep quiet, you're distracting everyone." He finished and placed his right elbow on the desk and placed his cheek on his palm. The tall boy was about to retort when Present Mick stepped in. Okay, settle down. Thanks for the question. Examinee 7111 and examinee 1802 was right. The 4th type of villain you'll encounter is worth 0 points. Let's call them arena traps. Have you played Super Mario Bros. Before?" he said, showing an image large robot monster on the screen. "You remember those things that go THWOMP on you? There's a thing like that in every arena. Their gimmick is that they rampage when crowded." Present Mick finished, and the tall boy began bowing stiffly to the amusement of the other examinees. "I see. Sounds like one of those stage hazards you have to slip through and avoid. This really starting to resemble a video game," he said in between bows. "Thank you very much. I apologize for being rude," he said as he sat down to the relief of the examinees. "Well, that's enough from me. I'll leave you all with a presentation on the school's precepts of this academy of mine. As a certain hero by the name of Napoleon Bonaparte once said, a true hero never stops overcoming the misfortunes in life." Present Mick said and smiled. "Now let's move to the main event plus Alta. And may all you suffer the trials to come," he said, making the examinees both excited and terrified. "This place is massive," Izuku said to no one in particular as he saw how large the replica city district really is. "That's UA for you, make an entire city district for the entrance exams," he whispered to himself as he began to do some simple stretching to relax his muscles. He was wearing a black unzipped hoodie, a plain white t-shirt, black gym shorts and white shoes in the same design as his red ones. And what? Izuku can have different colored shoes, right? As he was doing this, he began to analyze the other examinees. He noticed the guy with 6 arms there flapping his arms relaxing it, a guy with twinkling eyes calmly standing there. Shining, the tall guy who was stretching in a stiff fashion making Izuku snicker a bit, and lastly he saw the bob-haired girl pressing his fingers, together with the exception of her pinky finger, which Izuku raised an eyebrow a bit as he saw odd circles on her fingers. Probably a touch-based quirk. She looks nervous, maybe I can help her calm down. He thought and walked towards the girl. The tall guy saw this and was about to confront him when Izuku tapped the girl's shoulder, making the girl leap in surprise, making the girl jump a bit and looked at him blushing. "Oh, sorry for startling you, I just thought you need someone to talk to calm yourself down. I'm Izuku Midoriya by the way." Izuku offered his hand for a handshake. Huh? Oh yeah, I'm so nervous. She said sheepishly, still blushing. "I'm MHAxPrototype, nice to meet you," and she took his hand shaking it. Izuku released his hand, but before he could say a word, he heard a loud horn and a go from Present Mick, automatically began channeling Blacklight on his legs and booked it. Izuku already passed the gate and was met by a one-pointer which saw him. Target lock on Annihilate. The robot began charging at him. He just looked at it and waited for it to come near him. When it was about 10 meters, he began to channel Blacklight on his arms, not much to form a weapon, but enough to make his attack damage destroy a metal object. He cocked his fist and slammed his fist on the robot's head, breaking its head as it collapsed. Izuku saw the result of his attack and looked at his fist with a smirk. He looked up and saw more robot, varying in points. He shot off to the location while saying musclemus and his hands become enlarged with gray stone texture. 1 down, more to go. As he charged at the robots. What speed, thought of every person in the area. Tenya Iida, the tall guy and Uraraka were flabbergasted like the others in the area by the speed of Izuku. Even with his quirk engine, he couldn't move that fast. They were cut off from their musings when Present Mick shouted. "What's the matter? There's no such thing as a countdown in a real battle run ruin." With it the remaining bunch began frantically running towards the gate to get some points. As the gates opened, Bakugo used his quirk explosion to propel himself to the battlefield, leaving dust and debris everywhere and making the other examinees flinching by the sudden impact. "Target lock destroy," said a charging two-pointer, making Bakugo grin maniacally. Getting closer, he pushed his arms forward and began producing nitroglycerin on his palms. He screamed as his sweat explodes, destroying the two-pointer on contact. Seeing his masterpiece, Bakugo smirked, liking the feeling of destroying robots. He had waited so long for this, and now that he is here, no one can stop him. "Not so tough, you overgrown toaster." He laughed as he kicked a limb of the destroyed two-pointer and began propelling himself to a nearby building to search for more villains to destroy. "I'm going to be the greatest hero, greater than All Might. And I will destroy every villain that come in my way," he said as he blasted through the window and destroying 2 one-pointers in the process. Chapter 5.2 Entrance Exams and Girls. "And that's 65, that's probably enough to the practical test, right?" Izuku said to no one in particular as he wiped a bead of sweat of his forehead. It had been 7 minutes since the start of the practical exams, and so far, everything has been interesting. Flashback 4 minutes ago. At 25 points, Izuku was running the alleyways trying to move from one spot to another since his previous location had been filled by examinees. And as the examinees filled the place, he noticed that the three-pointers were nowhere to be seen. Probably since there are so many people there. "Gotta find more robots to," he was cut off from his line of thought when a one-pointer had burst out a building in front of Izuku as he exits the alleyway. "Target lock murder," the robot said and placed a crane-like claw near its head and shot towards him. Izuku was readying his quirk to summon his claws when he heard a voice coming from behind. "Art of Seduction," said a person from behind him as he shot a laser beam from his belt and hit the robot straight in the face. "Goddamn, Mercy, nice team play there," said the boy with a strange belt. He has a slim figure, his face appears rather feminine, and he has long, flattened yet spiky blonde hair. The guy looked at him and winked at Izuku, which creeped him out a little. "Nevertheless, it seems we shall not cross paths again. Adieu," the guy said and booked it, leaving Izuku with a sweat drop. Now that is one weird guy. Is he even French? Izuku thought and began wall running to gain high ground and spot the next wave robots coming. As he began jumping from one building to another, he heard a feminine voice screaming. Though it was faint, he still can hear it. He looked down the building but see no one. As Izuku shrugged it off and turned to leave, he heard it again and searched for the direction of the voice. When he arrived to the location, he was shocked to find a collapsed building. Izuku called out and heard a faint response on the other side. He began to channel Blacklight to his eyes to use thermal vision and saw that there was someone stuck under the wrecked building. Not hesitating a bit, Izuku began channeling his quirk and summoned his musclemus. He told the person under the wrecked building to move away, and when she moved away, Izuku punched the wall of the building strong enough to destroy that portion, but weak enough to not let the whole building go crashing down them. When Izuku entered the building, he was greeted by a blur of clothes. Tackling him to the ground. Thank you for coming, I was so scared. The person repeatedly said to Izuku while hugging him. Basing on the voice, he quickly knew that the person on top of him was a. That thought made Izuku blush. When Izuku looked at the person on top of him, he noticed that the person was invisible. Invisibility quirk. Those are rare, right? He was snapped out of his reverie when he felt his shirt become wet. He quickly assumed that the girl was crying. Izuku began panicking since he didn't really know what to do when there was someone crying in front of him and began thinking of a way to calm her down. But all he could think of was what his mom would do when he was crying. He hesitated at first, but he saw that the girl was really scared. Risking it all, still using thermal vision, he began to pat her head. SHH. It's okay. You're safe now. He said while slowly rubbing his hands on the girl's hair in a comforting way. Seeing the girl calm down a bit made him smile. They stayed like that in couple of seconds. Izuku stopped his hands when he felt the girl got off him. Deactivating thermal vision, he then sat up and looked at the girl, well, her clothes. What's your name? He asked her with a calm voice, not wanting to scare her more than she was now. She fidgeted a bit and faced him. I'm Toru Hagakure. Still scared, she said quietly, almost silently, but because of Izuku's enhanced hearing, he could hear her clearly. Toru Hagakure, Izuku repeated in his mind. What a beautiful name. He thought to himself, but when he saw her flinch a bit he knew that he said that out loud. Putting that aside, he smiled. I'm Izuku Midoriya. He said as he stood up. It's nice to meet you, but we still have an exam to pass. How many points do you have? He asked her as he looked down at her and offered a hand to her to help her up. She took the hand and stood up. I think I have 5 points, I don't think I can pass the test. She said sadly. Izuku looked at her. Before he could ask her why, she spoke up. As you can see, my quirk is invisibility. I can't fight robots. I just got lucky with the 5 points because I snuck up on 5 one-pointers and turned them off. Izuku shocked when he heard her said that and cut her off. Wait, you say you turned them off? They have a switch? He asked her, still in shook. Huh? Oh yeah. They have on their backs. Why? She asked him. Izuku began to smirk, creeping her a bit. I have planned. They began to walk outside to prevent the risk of getting crushed by the wrecked building. Later. Okay, that's 40 points, great work Hagakure, Izuku said as the 3-pointer collapsed in front of him. He had thought of a way to help Hagakure gain points. He thought that if he distract the robots while she sneaks up on them and turn them off from behind. She was a bit hesitant at first, but when the plan succeeded at the first try she was convinced. Hagakure was so happy that Izuku is willing to help her even in an exam which would be every man for himself, he didn't hesitate in helping her. She then observed him up close and thanked God for being invisible, helping her to hide the blush she was having as she stared at his face. She had to stop herself from squealing kawaii when Izuku smiled, and it began to emphasize the shapes of his freckles, making him look adorable. She was cut off from her stupor when Izuku looked at her direction. So, what are you waiting for? Let's go get more points for you. He nodded to the direction and started to turn away when a hand grabbed his arm. Izuku looked at her in confusion. I think that's enough for me. You can go back to getting you points. She said to him, looking at his eyes, admiring the emerald orbs, unnoticed by the greenet. Are you sure, Hagakure? We can still get more if you want. He asked, genuinely confused why she wants to stop. Believe me, I want to get more points. She paused to take a deep breath. But I also want you to get points for yourself. I think 40 points is enough to get in UA. Thank you for assisting me and thank you for saving me. She came close to Izuku and he felt something touch his cheek. A kiss. A kiss from a girl. A kiss from a girl he just met in the exams and help in getting points. A kiss of sign of respect and gratitude. A kiss of admiration and adoration. But he didn't need to know the last one. He blushed and touched his cheek using his hand. Not really knowing what to do, Izuku just smiled at the invisible girl. I'll see you in UA. The girl turned around and began walking away. Oh, and by the way, she paused to look back. Call me Toru, okay Izuku, she finished and began walking in a brisk pace. Leaving a grinning Izuku. I'll see you in UA. Toru. And Izuku channeled blacklight on his legs and began to sprint in the opposite direction while cheering to himself that he made another friend. End of flashback. After he and Toru part ways, Izuku encountered a horde of robots varying from 1 to 3 points. He then used his musclemus to charge into the pile of robots while tearing and destroying the robots that he ran through in the process. He got 32 points in that pile, but he didn't stop there. He went to search for more. Izuku used his wall running and ran on the building's wall in search for more robots to wreck. On his way to the center of the city district, he saw the weird guy that shoots lasers on his stomach, having performance issues or a stomachache, as he was holding his stomach with a look of pain. When Izuku saw that the guy was about to get pummeled by a large 2-pointer, Izuku swooped in by using glide and landing a hammer fist-coated punch to the aggressive bot to save the poor weird guy. After saying now, we're even. Izuku left quickly as he sprint away just like how the weird guy did to him earlier. He then began to punch and kick robots and even throw the remains of a destroyed robot to an arriving robot. While he was throwing the remains, he made sure to hit the robots and not the buildings to prevent someone from getting trapped in them like Toru was before Izuku saved her. He was currently leaning on a railing of a rooftop, scanning the ground full of examinees and robots, intact or destroyed, when he heard a loud horn and was startled by a strong force comparable to magnitude 3 earthquake. When he looked down, he saw the examinees running away from the direction of his spot. Curious about what was causing them to panic, he turned to look and was wide-eyed to see a zero-pointer toppling 2 buildings with ease. Earlier, somewhere in UA, in a dim-lit room, there gathered figures of all shapes and sizes. The figures are quietly sitting staring at a large screen where all of the examinees are being showed in every screen. They were all looking at the screen with look of awe, judgment, excitement and lust. The silence were shattered by a tiny yet intelligent voice. A strict time limit and a vast battleground. Nothing quite like it to bring everyone's ardor into the open and uncover their skills. He paused and looked at the screen. The ability to grasp the situation quickly and accurately, he said as the screen shows the examinee with 6 arms in a web-like pattern using his quirk and gathering information. The ability to hit a dynamic entry without ever being late to the party. Showing Tenuita that is shown to have engines on the back of his legs as he speed in the bunch of robots. The ability to face any obstacle with coolness and composure. Looking at the weird guy as he shoots a laser to a robot while winking at the camera. How can he even see the camera? Thought of most of the people in the room. And of course sheer fighting prowess. Looking at Bakugo as his blows up a 3-pointer with ease. We can gauge their respective levels of those foundational skills by the way of the point system he finished as he looked at every examinee doing their best attacking and defending against robots. You're right, and by the looks of it, a tired bored voice from Eraserhead called out. This kid has all of those skills. He finished pointing toward a green-haired kid on a rooftop and scanning the surroundings. The others agreed to what the black-clad hero said, earning a smirk under his mask. Too bad All Might was not able to see what Midori. He was quickly cut off by the person who had just entered the door. Sorry, I got lost in the way back. Said All Might in his skeletal form as he sheepishly enters the room and made his way to the front next to Nezu, the bear dog mouse principal, earning a glare from Izawa. Before Izawa could confront the number 1 hero for being late, the sultry voice of the R-rated hero. Midnight spoke up. Oh my, we've raked in a bumper crop this year. We can be sure of that yet. All Might said as he lifted the cover of a red button. The thing to test their mettle is this. As he pushed the red button, and a loud horn was heard in the battlefield. Back with Izuku. Holy shit, a 0-pointer Ruu and Izuku heard from an evacuating examinee as he landed on the ground. The examinees were panicking and began running away from the 0-pointer, forgetting about the points. Izuku stood there analyzing the 0-pointer, not seeing Iida looking at him, confused why the greenet wasn't running as he sped off the location to safety. Man, that's massive. It's too risky. Even with my hammer fist I can't destroy that. I need to get out off here before, he thought as he slowly turns away when he heard it. AHHOWWWW. The voice Izuku remembered in the start of the practical exam made him stop on his tracks. He slowly looked back and was horrified to see Uraraka stuck under rubble, looking hurt. Oh no, she's gonna get crushed. I need to wait. Why am I running? He thought as he kept running towards the 0-pointer with blacklight infused legs. My body is moving on its own. As he passes a scared Uraraka and avoids a large metal fist by jumping up until he was over a couple of feet from the robot's head, then lets himself fall as he channeled as much biomass on his right arm as he transformed it into a spiky hammer fist. With a yell, he pulled his arm to his back and punched the 0-pointer as hard as possible, resulting it getting destroyed as a massive explosion that was heard from every section of the Mach City district. The explosion was so loud, the examinees didn't hear Present Mick say 2 minutes left. Izuku to his part was falling, and he couldn't do anything to stop himself or brace for impact since he couldn't move his arms and legs. He sprained his body due to quirk overuse, but was confused why he doesn't feel tired, like how it should have been, since his quirk uses his stamina to convert the protein in his body to produce the biomass he needs to create weapons and use his quirk. As Izuku was bracing for the impact of the fall, he was startled when he felt a hand hit him in the face and he felt weightless and started floating. He then saw Uraraka put her hands together and with a yell of release Izuku fell to the ground hard, but not as hard as he was expecting during the fall. He was about to thank Uraraka when he saw he on top of a robot vomiting rainbows. Izuku was unsure if the fall had damaged his brain or if he was really seeing rainbows come out of the bob-hair girl's mouth. The green-haired boy was stopped from his train of thought when a loud voice of Present Mick was heard around the whole city district. Time's up. Back with the UA teachers. All Might stood up from his feet when Izuku destroys the 0-pointer with one punch. He has a quirk. Did Did he lie to me? Did he always had a quirk? He was cut off from his trance when Izawa's voice echoed in the silent room. The most important qualification of a hero. The spirit of self-sacrifice. He said, walking to cabinet and began searching the cabinet. Izawa then took a folder and made sure it was what he was searching for. Izawa then read its contents. Izuku Midoriya, 15 years old, quirk. Blacklight allows the user to manipulate the biomass in his body to be able to create weapons and have enhanced strength, speed and regeneration. He paused and handed Nezu the folder, who read the file and passed it to All Might and turned to the door. But the powerful quirk and the mastery he had using it, who would have thought that he only developed it 9 months ago. He said, hiding a smirk when he noticed all the people in the room were shocked with the exception of Nezu, who began cackling like a madman. Oh, and Nezu, I want him in my class. He said as he left the room, thinking that he would now have one student safe from expulsion. Izuku Midoriya, I look forward teaching you. He said as present mix voice echoes in the whole UA. But Izuku, oh damn it, note to self, don't use too much biomass for one attack. He said to himself as he tried to stand up. Keyword. Tried, as he keeps falling to his knees. He still couldn't feel his legs due to it numbing because of quirk overuse. Thinking back to what he did, he was confused when he realized that the hammerfist he summoned was similar to Heller's version of the hammerfist, which is bulkier and has spikes coming out on the hands to cause more damage to its target. He was caught of when he began falling down again when an arm grabbed his jacket from behind to keep him from falling face first. He looked back and saw Uraraka now putting Izuku's arm over her shoulder to support him. The close contact between the two teens made them both blush, but in Uraraka's case, his existing blush brightened. Thanks for the save, Uraraka. That would have been a sick landing. Izuku said, shattering the silence. Said girl just shook her head and smiled at him. No, I should be thanking you. If it wasn't for you I would have been crushed by the zero-pointer, she said as she looked back at the now obliterated zero-pointer. That's an awesome quirk you have there, Midoriya. You punched that thing like it was just a tin can. She continued as he looked at Izuku, who was flattered by the compliment. It was nothing, your quirk is the one that's awesome. You made me weightless, as if I'm in outer space or something. He said, making Uraraka blush even more, making her face resemble a tomato. As the two were conversing and the other examinees were looking at the damage that Izuku dealt to the zero-pointer, Iida was deep in thought. That kid, he leapt into action to save that girl. You had no time left. And you yourself out of harm's way. The chances of passing was the main priority of everyone here, and yet despite of that, he jumped in without hesitation. He clenched his fist. If it hadn't been in the middle of the big exam, I, of course, would have done the same. That was when a thought entered his mind. Wait. Maybe that was part of the test. Iida was still in thought when a voice called out to them. Go home lads, I'll take it from here. It was a short elderly woman with grey hair styled into a netted bun, a large orange poking diagonally out of it to the left. She has a notably small nose and eyes which are usually drawn as two little dashes, and a long mouth with defined nasolabial folds. She wears a doctor's lab coat and a dress with yellow buttons and a belt with a pink R-shaped buckle. She wears pink boots and has a helmet around the sides of her head, a purple-tinted visor joining it over her eyes. In addition, she walks with a cane designed like a syringe that she can also use for healing the injured. Leave it to me boys. Oh, and here, enjoy some gummies, it'll give you your energy back. She said as she passed out some gummy bears to the examinees while walking to Izuku and Uraraka. Excuse-moi, mademoiselle. The weird guy said while winking, she's a mainstay here at UA, always supporting the academy, the youthful heroine. Recovery girl. Recovery girl ignored the guy and just walked closer to the two teens. What seems to be the problem here, dear? She said, looking at Izuku, who stopped himself from muttering about being able to see recovery girl up close. I just sprained my right arm and my legs are numb due to the quirk overuse. Other than that I'm fine. He said as recovery girl kissed him on the cheek and he felt his arm and legs gain feeling, but at the same time feeling tired. That should do it, and how about you, dear? She asked Uraraka, who was amazed on how Izuku can stand now unlike before the elder heroine showed up. I think I sprained my foot. She pointed her right foot that was swelling a little bit. Recovery girl kissed it and Uraraka can feel her foot heal and the feeling of exhaustion. That'll do it, here both of you take a gummy. It'll help you recover your energy. She said as hand them both gummy bears which they both took and ate. Both feeling their energies back, bowed to thank the heroine and began walking towards the exit, leaving a thoughtful Iida. I see, so that's the real nature of the test after all, so he knew it all along, he thought as he grind his teeth. A week later, Izuku was currently writing an entry about Uraraka's quirk to his hero journal. He found out that her quirk was called zero gravity, which allows her to make things float as long as all 5 finger pad touch the target, but too much use of her quirk leads to her getting nauseous, which explains why she had to throw up. Looking back to his performance in the entrance exams, he was satisfied on the 65 villain points he got in the exam. But he know that those points were not the only tested by UA. Knowing that UA is a hero school, they would probably test how they would perform as heroes, like saving others or something. He figured it out while reading the handout at the meeting hall. So, basically Izuku saving Toru, the weird guy, and Uraraka has points, and he is expecting his total score wouldn't be 65, but more. Nevertheless, he was satisfied not only that he got a good score and hidden points, and he even got new friends in Toru and Uraraka, both were saved by yours truly. Speaking of Uraraka, after the exams and they changed into their uniforms, he was about to walk her to her station. But she declined, saying she had to go ask something about the points she got or something. He wasn't sure, she was really vague about the information. Regardless, she promised to see him in UA and parted ways. He was knocked out of his reverie when the door of his room busted open. Izuku looked at the direction of the door and saw her mom on the floor, seemingly excited and nervous while holding an envelope with a UA stamp. "Izuku, it's here," Rinko said frantically as she gives her son the envelope and exits the room. Izuku looked at the envelope on his hands and stared at it for a while. He would be lying if he said he wasn't nervous of what the result is, but whatever the result is he wouldn't find out unless he chooses not to open the envelope. Taking deep breaths to calm himself, he began to open the envelope and found a disc with the letters UA on it and saw a button there. Seeing no harm and curiosity killing him, he took a last breath and pressed the button. And with a flash of white, a hologram of a certain hero had made Izuku widen his eyes. Chapter 6. First day, quirk apprehension test. "Izuku, did you pack some tissue?" asked Inko. Izuku was about to answer when his mom continued. "What about you, hanky? You can't live without a hanky," dear Inko frantically asked, not hiding her nervousness. Izuku could only laugh at her mom. "Yes, mom. I packed it," he said as he tied his shoes and stood up. He was about to exit the apartment when his mom called him again, making him look at her. He saw her look at his UA uniform and to himself. He noticed her smile and began to tear up. "You look so right now. Good luck in your first day," she said and smiled with tears in her eyes. Izuku couldn't help but give her a smile and placed a hand on the doorknob. "See you soon, mom. I love you," he said and exits the apartment in a run. He could hear her mom's voice as she said, "I love you too," Izu making him smile and feel happy. Izuku was ecstatic to pass UA. Not only get into the hero course, but get the top score in the whole exams. Well, he knew he would ace the written exams and somewhat guessed that he got more points than 65. But what really made him excited to go UA was his new homeroom teacher. Flashback. After pressing the button of the weird disc, a hologram of a person clad in black long sleeves and pants, yellow goggles and his signature neck scarf. Looking at the hologram, Izuku smiled to see the Erasure hero. Eraserhead in his usual bored and tired look. But the green-haired boy knew that behind that scarf was a smile, he could see it in the pro hero's eyes. "Hello, Izuku Midoriya. How's it been? My name is Shota Izawa, the Erasure hero. Eraserhead. I am here to tell you the results of your written and practical exams." Izuku watches the hero take out a paper from out of nowhere and reads the contents of it. "After checking your test papers, we are happy to inform you that you gained a score of 100 over 100, easily acing the whole written test and tied with another student in the same middle school as you," Aizawa said as it showed in the background his name over Bakugo's name. It didn't surprise him to see he and the blonde were tied. He would be surprised if they didn't tie in the written test. Man, he'll be pretty pissed off when he found out about that. I can already imagine him exploding on me, figuratively and literally. "And when it comes to your practical test, you scored 65 villain points. Easily making you qualified to enter UA's hero course." Aizawa said, and Izuku brightened up hearing that he passed and was in the hero course. He was about to jump out of his seat when the pro hero continued. "However, that's not all." Izuku saw the screen changed into a recorded scene. Excuse me, hi." His eyes widened when he saw Uraraka enter the scene. "What is she doing there?" The moment the exam ended, "This girl went to us directly to request to us about her score." As he paused and played the recording. "So that's why she left." Sorry to bother you, but do you know Izuku Midoriya? The boy with the curly hair? Has freckles and kinda looks plain in a cute way though. Do you know who I'm talking about?" said Uraraka while moving her hands, trying to describe his hair. "Would it be possible to share some of my points with him?" That shocked Izuku. What? Can you give him some of my points? "He saved my life and I would have died there if it wasn't for him," she said, as there was a transition in the screen showing Izuku speeding up towards the zero pointer and punching the robot with all his might and destroyed the robot. "Heroes, yes, we fight and capture villains. However, what makes a hero isn't a person's quirk or the lack of one, but the actions that you do to selflessly ensure others' safety while putting your own in harm's way." Aizawa said as a montage of videos of Izuku saving and helping Uraraka, Toru and the weird guy is shown in the hologram screen. "Sorry, Missy, you can't share points, but don't worry. I'm pretty sure you won't be needing to do that in the first place, President Mick says and pats her on the head. Looking back at the deeds you have done and seeing you doing them without hesitation. Me and the judges did the most logical thing to do, it is to give you rescue points. He said as a screen pop out and Izuku was beyond shocked of the points he got. First. Izuku Midoriya villain points. 65 rescue points. 70. Second. Kitsuki Bakugo villain points. 77 rescue points. 0. Third. Ijiro Kirishima villain points. 39 rescue points. 35. Fourth. Ichaku Uraraka villain points. 28 rescue points. 45. Fifth. Ibara Shiozaki villain points. 36 rescue points. 32. Sixth. Itsuka Kendo villain points. 25 rescue points. 40. Seventh. Tenya Iida villain points. 52 rescue points. 9. 8th. Tetsu villain points. 49 rescue points. 10. 9th. Fumikage Tokoyami villain points. 47 rescue points. 10. 10th. Yusetsu Awase villain points. 50 rescue points. 6. 70 rescue points. If that is added to 65, then I get. He mumbled to himself, and due to her wanting to give you her points, we decided to give her 45 rescue points. Congratulations kid, you not only got first place, but you beat All Might's record of 50 villain points and 50 rescue points by 35 points, as Awa then pulls his scarf down and gave him a genuine smile. You passed the UA entrance exam and will be in class 1A, welcome to your hero academia. I'll see you in class. And with that the hologram faded leaving a crying Izuku. Flashback end. After seeing the results, he told his mom that he passed and instantly regretted it. Well, let's just say in a sunny day their whole apartment was flooded in just 2 seconds. Entering UA, Izuku began jogging his way in the hallways, trying to find where 1A's room is. 1A. Where the heck is 1A? Man, this place is too big. He said as he looked around searching his classroom. It took him 10 minutes to find his classroom and he was amazed of the size of the door with a large 1A written on it. This door is enormous, probably for students with quirks like Mount Lady's gigantification quirk. He thought as he began opening the door. He silently prayed to every god he know as he thought of Bakugo and the tall guy with glasses in the entrance exam. I wish those two end up in 1B, I'll be very grateful. His train of thought was cut off when heard voices he very much knew and cursed his luck. He opened the door and he heard it clear. Don't put your legs on the desk, don't you think that's disrespectful towards your upperclassmen, said scolded the tall guy to Bakugo, who wasn't even fazed about what the tall guy said and kept his leg on the desk. Bakugo just scoffed. No, as a matter of fact, I don't really care. Which middle school are from anyway, you 2-bit extra. Izuku just rolled his eyes. I'm from Same Junior High School. The name's Tenya Iida. Said the tall guy, now known as Tenya Iida. Same? Well, aren't you an elite? Seems I've got a reason to bucking kill you after all, Bakugo said, smirking maniacally, making Iida flinch incredulously. Well, Izuku just decided to enter. A reason to kill me? Do you really want to be a hero? He gasped and stepping back. He then looked at the door when Izuku finally began walking in. Iida walked toward Izuku. Hello, I'm Tenya Iida from Same. He was cut off when Izuku was tackled by a blur of UA uniform. Izuku, it's good to see you, said clothes were Toru, the other girl Izuku saved in the entrance exam. I'm so happy you passed and we're classmates. Let's enjoy this whole year, said the invisible girl as she squeezed the hell out of Izuku. Why yeah right. I'm also happy to see you. Izuku said as he scratched his head sheepishly, making Toru giggle. He was happy to have at least one friend in A. Iida coughed, catching the duo's attention. As I was saying. Midoriya, I must hand it to you. He said, confusing the green-haired boy. You actually saw the true nature of the practical exam, didn't you? I was unaware of it and I completely misread you. I hate to admit it, but you are the better man. He said in a comically hurt tone, making Izuku and Toru sweat drop. Izuku then saw Bakugo looking at him with narrowed eyes. Deku. Before Izuku could respond to Iida, the door of the classroom opened, making them look at the person there. Midoriya, I knew I saw that mop of green hair somewhere. I'm glad to see you, Uraraka said, walking close to Izuku. Izuku saw her and smiled at her, while noticing her uniform looks good on her. Glad to see you too, Uraraka. Oh, by the way, this is Toru Hagakure and Tenya Iida. He said while pointing at Toru, who's still hugging him, waved, and Iida, who bowed to the bob-haired girl. Nice to meet you, I'm glad you got in. I guess President Mick was true, she said, getting closer to Izuku, making the boy back away a bit, and Toru pout, not that they would notice though. That bastard, he gets 2 girls in the first day of school. Said a kid with purple balls for hair with hate and jealousy in his voice as Bakugo was still glaring at Izuku. Said blonde was furious of Izuku passing UA and remember the day they were congratulated by their homeroom teacher. Flashback, this means 2 kids from our middle school got into UA. 2. And Midoriya's acceptance in particular is a miracle among miracles. Congratulations, both of you, said their homeroom teacher, and the duo bowed and left the teacher's lounge. When they got outside, Bakugo grabbed Izuku's uniform collar and pushed him to a wall. What goddamn trick did you use to pass the exam, you bastard? He was furious, not liking the fact that Deku passed the entrance exam. I was supposed to be first to enter UA from this shitty school, me alone. You ripped my future glory to pieces. And now he couldn't finish his sentence when he felt his wrist was being squeezed and hard. He looked at Deku, who was gripping his arm like it was a lifeline, making him grimace. You really need to shut the buck up. Deku looked at him deadly in the eyes, making him flinch a little. I got in UA using hard work and training I did for 8 months. And you're stupid if you think I can bribe the best hero school in Japan. He said, pulling off Bakugo's arm off his collar, and looked at the blonde straight in the eye. And what glory? Get a hold of yourself. You're a kid with an explosion quirk. Yeah, big deal, but in UA no one cares about you or your sweaty quirk. The world doesn't revolve around you, Bakugo. And grow up. You're looking so pathetic, whining just because your quirkless classmate passed the entrance exam of UA. He continued, slowly walking away. After a few steps, Deku stopped and looked at him with cold eyes. I'm heading to UA and you can't stop me, Kaken. Finished and walked away, not seeing the raging Bakugo he left behind. Flashback end. He growled, remembering Deku's face and words. It infuriated him that a quirkless loser like Deku was able to get to UA. He knew that the loser cheated his way in, but he just can't prove it. He probably bribed his way in. Whatever he did, I'm gonna destroy him like the pebble he was. The explosive teen thought as he glared daggers at the green-haired boy. If you're here just to search for friends, do it elsewhere. A gruff voice said, making everyone look at the door. There was a yellow sleeping bag with a man inside it lying on the floor. Izuku had to suppress a smirk when he saw and recognized who the person was. This is the Department of Heroics, he said as he took out a juice box and emptied it in one go. Who the hell is this guy? Everyone minus Izuku thought simultaneously as the person in the stood up and began to come out of the sleeping bag and looked at the class for a moment. It took you all 8 seconds to quiet down. Quite disappointing, but it's a start. He said and looked at Izuku and nodded slightly. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. Pleasure to meet you. Aizawa said in a tired voice. There's no way this guy hobo is the homeroom teacher, thought everyone with wide eyes except Izuku, who was staring at Aizawa, who was rummaging in his sleeping bag, looking for something. The hero then took out a standard UAP uniform and. You know what the PE uniform in UA looks like, no need for me to describe it. Wear these immediately. And then quickly go to the training grounds in 15 minutes. He said as he handed out the PE uniform to them and quickly exits the classroom. Izuku and the others quickly went to change into their PE uniform and went to the training grounds. Izuku being the first one to change and arrived to the grounds. There he saw Aizawa looking at him with an approving smile. Izuku gave him a smile and a bow. A few seconds later, the rest of the class arrived, the UA training grounds led by Bakugo, who was scowling at Izuku, and followed by the rest of the class, who were talking to each other. Now that everyone is here, we will be having a quirk apprehension test. Said Aizawa looking at them with a bored look. The quirk apprehension test, exclaimed Class 1A. What about the entrance ceremony and the guidance counselor meeting? Uraraka asked, confused why they are in the training grounds instead in the entrance ceremony where every student should be in. The pro hero just shrugged, if you want to be heroes, there is no time for that kind of leisure activities. He looked back at the class. UA is famous when it comes to freedom for student in the campus. That also applies to us instructors. He said, still confusing the students. Softball pitch, standing long jump, 50-meter dash, endurance running gripping test, sustained sideways jumps, upper body exercises and seated toe touch. He said and faced the students. These are the activities you know from middle school. Physical tests where you were barred from using quirks. Aizawa said as he walked towards a basket full of softballs. The country still hasn't gotten around to standardizing those kinds of records or keeping track of average performance levels. Well, you can blame that on MEXT. And. According to the manga, MEXT stands for Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, he said as he took out 2 softballs and faced the class. Bakugo, how far could you pitch a softball in middle school? Asked the tired man. 67 meters. Bakugo said and caught a softball. Try using your quirk that time. As long as you don't exit the circle, anything you do is fine. Aizawa said and took out a device from his scarf. Don't hold back. As soon as he said that, Bakugo smirked like a madman and prepared to pitch the ball. You got it. He said as he cocked his hand to his back and threw the ball enhanced by explosion. And with that the ball propelled to the sky while sending shockwaves that is here throughout the training ground. Thought the rest of the class while Izuku just sighed and shook his head. He never changes. As the ball landed to the ground, the device Aizawa took out beeped and showed 705.2 meters. Impressive throw, Bakugo. It's important for us to know the limit of our quirk and how to channel it properly, Aizawa said as he showed Bakugo his results. Said blonde smirked and looked at Izuku who was indifferent, which made him angry for not seeing the reaction he wants Deku to show. Now, Midoriya. How far can you throw? Aizawa said as he threw a softball to Izuku. 45 meters sir. Izuku said as he caught the ball with one hand. Go to the circle, like I said with Bakugo. Use your quirk and don't leave the circle. He said and resets the device. Izuku nodded and made way to the circle. But before that Izuku walked towards a girl with dark purple hair with an asymmetrical fringe and 2 chin-length bangs on either side. You might want to cover your ears for this one. This is going to be loud. He whispered to the girl who was confused at first but covered her ear in earphone jacks. As Izuku was walking to the circle, Bakugo just scoffed at the green-haired boy. Heh. He's gonna embarrass himself. He said with a smirk on his face. What do you mean embarrass himself? Iida asked him with a raised eyebrow. Curious why Izuku would embarrassing himself. He's bucking quirkless. Bakugo said in a matter-of-fact tone. Are you sure? Uraraka asked getting Bakugo's attention. Because he was in our section and he destroyed a zero-pointer with ease. She added, and both Toru and Iida nodded, then flinching when Bakugo looked at her in a glare. What are yo? Bakugo was cut off when Aizawa talked. Don't hold back, Midoriya. He said inwardly smirking. Bakugo is going to eat his words. Izuku nodded seeing the message and started to channel biomass on his right hand and black tendrils began to sprout from his pores and turned his whole arm into musculamus shocking Bakugo. He cocked his arm to his back and used all his strength to throw the ball as hard as he can. The ball propelled through the sky in great speed, breaking the sound barrier in the process ending a shockwave stronger than Bakugo's. The rest of the class were amazed of Izuku's throw. Kyokajiro, the purple-haired girl was thankful to Izuku for warning her to cover her ears. If she didn't she would have been deaf. Way to go Izuku Midoriya Toru and Uraraka cheered while Iida clapped. As the ball ended, Izuku retracted his quirk back to his body and shakes his arm since it become numb because of the throw. What the buck? A quirk manifests by age of 4 at the latest it's impossible. And yet. He has a quirk and he didn't told me. Deku you bastard what was that explain now you shit Bakugo propelled toward Izuku with great speed using his quirk. He was about to destroy the greenet. That is when he was stopped by a strong strand of cloth. Ah what the buck is this thing? And why can't I use my quirk? Bakugo struggled and tried channeling his quirk but to no avail. It's my special capturing weapon, a steel wire alloy woven with carbon nanofibers, Aizawa said with red eyes and his hair floating, indicating him using his quirk. As for your quirk, I erased it. Though it gives me dry eye, so I advised you to not let me use my quirk too often. He retracted his scarf and showed them Izuku's score. 1032.34 meters. 1 kilometer that's so manly. We can really use our quirks now that's the Department of Heroics for you. This is going to be fun. Aizawa scoffed. Fun, you say? His hair shadowed his face. So you all were planning to spend your 3 years here having a good and fun time? What happened to becoming heroes? He said ominously intimidating even Izuku and Bakugo. Alright then. In that case, new rule. The student who ranks last in total points will be instantly expelled. He said shocking everyone and scaring some. Our freedom means we dispense with students as we please he said with an eerie grin plastered on his face. Welcome to the Department of Heroics. What? The guy who ranks last gets expelled. Exclaimed Uraraka. This is our first day here and even if we weren't that's just so unfair. Natural disasters, accidents, villain attacks all kind of calamities can happen when we least expect it. Unfair is not a valid reason he paused. And it's our job as heroes to reverse it all. If you were counting on a friendly chat at a local McDonald's after school, that's too bad. From now on, for the next 3 years all you can expect from your life at UA is one hardship after the other. I expect you all to overcome these trails and climb to the top. This is plus ultra style. Izuku calms himself and put on him game face on giving Aizawa a give me your best shot look. Aizawa saw this and smirked. This will be interesting. Somewhere in UA. I can't believe our class has to go to that boring entrance ceremony, well not a single person from class 1A was there. Said a blonde-haired guy with a smug arrogant expression on his face as he enters their classroom. They're so high of themselves, it's just the start of the year. Everyone just ignored him, but they were confused why no one from 1A was present in the entrance ceremony. They're probably doing a quirk apprehension test. Said Vlad King, class 1B homeroom teacher. He knew that Aizawa would let his class skip the entrance ceremony just to expel them. He wouldn't be surprised if he expelled his whole class. The whole class then heard a weak explosion coming from somewhere. They know it was class 1A doing their QAT, so they shrugged it off. 5 minutes later the whole class plus Vlad King were jolted when they heard a loud explosion and felt the shockwave. What the heck was that exclaimed a girl with dark moss green hair. Who was unintentionally split herself into pieces. I don't know, but whatever that was. It was so manly, yelled a silver hair guy with weird eyelashes, making everyone sweat drop. Vlad King on the other hand was curious. That was a loud explosion. I wonder who caused that. I better ask Izawa after this. He thought as he continued to explain the rules of his class. Back to class 1A. Izuku stood back with his class as he watched his pink-haired skinned classmate with horns and black sclera and yellower eyes, named Mina Ashido, use acid on her feet to run past her partner, the weird guy in the exams named Yuga Aoyama, as he lands when he landed to use his quirk once more. Izuku had to hold a sweat drop when said guy didn't even care he lose and think he was still shining. The green-haired teen had finished some of the tests and was satisfied on how he performed. First was obviously the softball pitch, where he was scored 1032.34 meters, second only to Uraraka, who got infinite as she made the ball weightless and let it float up to space with her zero gravity. Second was standing long jump, where he ran towards the edge of the sandbox and channeled biomass on his legs to jump and used glide to propel to the end, clearing the test. He watched Bakugo propel himself in the air and clear the test. As soon as he lands, he sent a glare at Izuku's direction, who completely ignored him, making the blonde furious. Third was the grip test, where he passed the test, not without breaking the dynamometer. He was surprised for the fact that he wasn't even channeling his quirk, and it scared himself knowing he has to do more training to fully control his quirk. The second place was the Mezu Shoji, the guy with the 6 arms in the exams, with 540 kilograms. Izuku had to keep himself from punting the kid who said, "Tentacles are hot." Next was the repeated side steps, like in the standing long jump, he used his quirk to channel biomass in his legs and side stepped as fast as he can. Getting third place behind Iida and the grape-haired kid named Minoru Mineta, who used the balls in his head to his advantage. Izuku was impressed on how clever he used his quirk. But he still want to punt him to the moon. Sit-ups and seated toe touch, where Izuku used the biomass in his body to make him more flexible and passed the test with ease. Distance run, where he was running side to side with Iida, only behind a girl named Momoyoi Rozu, who was using a freaking motorbike she created using her quirk. Creation to speed past them. Izuku was impressed. He can say that girl was smart, using a motorbike in a distance run and a cannon, yes, a bucking cannon in the softball pitch. Izuku was cut off from his thought when Izawa called him for the 50-meter dash. He walked to the starting line, as did Bakugo, who was still glaring at him. Izuku knew why the blonde was angry, but he couldn't care less. He has a test to pass, and he wasn't gonna waste his time arguing with a guy who obviously is angry for Izuku entering UA and having a quirk and jealous because the Deku he pushed around in middle school was completely crushing him in the quirk apprehension test. As Izawa start the timer, Bakugo, being Bakugo, used his quirk on Izuku to somewhat blind and damage the greenet's eyes to fail the test and propel to the finish line. Izuku was startled of the attack, and if it wasn't for his quirk, he would have been blind now. After shaking off the cobwebs in his head, Izuku again used his quirk and channel biomass to his legs and sprinted past Bakugo, making the blonde lose balance with the speed the greenet is in. Izuku sprint past the finish line and fell on one knee as he breathed hard. Damn. I used too much biomass. He gasped out in between exhales as he took out an energy bar out of his pocket, unwrapped it and ate it in one go. He then felt his energy back and stood up to look at his score. He got 3.43 seconds and Bakugo got 4.13 seconds. When he turned to Izawa, he saw his teacher with his quirk event scarf wrapping on a struggling Bakugo. Looks like Bakugo got himself in trouble. I wonder why. He thought sarcastically, unconsciously rubbing his eyes. I don't care what you and Midoriya's history are, but here in UA we don't tolerate bullying. If you ever attack a classmate again, I will expel you and ask the principal to put your name in the blacklist. Not even your old middle school can do anything about it. He threatened the blonde teen, who was still scowling but was visibly shaking in fear. After releasing the blonde and applied eye drops on his dry eyes, he got the last 2 students to do the test. Izawa gathered them and stood in front of them, still looking tired and shaking. Time to present the results, he said, making some of the students flinch, not really excited to know their scores. The total is simply the combination of your individual scores. Reciting them all one by one will take forever, so let me show you the results, he said tiredly as he pressed a button and a hologram screen pop out of the device. There you will see the results, Izawa says, and the class scanned the results. First, Momoyoi Rozu. Second, Izuku Midoriya. Third, Shoto Todoroki. Fourth, Katsuki Bakugo. Fifth, Tenya Iida. Sixth, Fumikage Tokoyami. Seventh, Mizo Shoji. Eighth, Masahiro Jiro. Ninth, Ijiro Kirishima. 10th, Mina Ashido. 11th, Echako Uraraka. 12th, Koji Koda. 13th, Rikido Sato. 14th, Sayu Asui. 15th, Yuga Aoyama. 16th, Hanta Siro. 17th, Denki Kaminari. 18th, Kyoka Jiro. 19th, Toru Hagakure. 20th, Minoru Mineta. The students saw their results and mixed emotions felt in the training grounds. Satisfaction, relief, anger, disappointment, joy and depression. Bakugo was furious of getting 4th place and began glaring at Izuku, Momo and the guy with red and white hair that was evenly split between colors, heterochromia eyes with a scar on his left eye, who was named Shoto Todoroki, son of the number 2 hero. Endeavor. Said teen was looking at Izuku with narrowed analytic eyes. Minoru Mineta was openly crying seeing as he was last placed. He was mumbling things about not having a chance to get a girlfriend or touch a boob. Izuku was about to dropkick the pervert when Iida began holding him back, saying, "It is against the rules to attack your classmates." Momoyaoi Rozu was looking at this and shook her head. It was obviously a logical ruse to make us perform at our best. She thought and was about to say what she thought when Izawa spoke up. Looking at the results of the quirk apprehension test, he paused and looked at his class. "It is decided then, Minoru Mineta, pack your things and go to the principal's office. You are now expelled from the heroic department." Izawa announced, shocking everyone except Izuku, who knew he would expel someone in the class. Mineta just cried and walked away toward the locker room to get his stuff. I thought it was only a logical ruse." Momo said quietly, still shaken from the fact that she was wrong. She can't believe that their teacher just expelled one of her classmates without hesitating. It wasn't really surprising. The class turned their head toward Izuku, who was still looking at Mineta as he walked away. What do you mean, Izuku?" Toru said nervously, not really comfortable being 19th place and almost got herself expelled. "I mean, our teacher is a racerhead. And he is known to expel students who he doesn't see potential. Seeing he only expelled Mineta, we're lucky." The green-haired boy said, pointed to Izawa, drawing looks of confusion. He saw his classmates' confused looks and continued. "We're lucky because unlike today, he expelled his whole class last year in the first day of class." Izuku finished, he and Izawa smirk inwardly as the whole class jaw drop and paled. "Putting that aside, you can change to your uniforms and go back to class and grab the curriculum sheets on the table in the classroom. I'll see you all later," he said as he walked away. "This is going to be a long year," he said sagely and smiled. Disappearing from the sight of his students. Izuku was about to walk to the classroom when a hand gripped his shoulder. "Deku, we're talking right here right now," said Bakugo as began popping explosions on Izuku's shoulder. Said Greenette just looked at him and to his hand and back to him with a bored face. "I don't think so," he said boredly, flicking Bakugo's hand away and walking away. Not even looking back as the blonde's explosion echoed in the area. As he was walking he sensed someone watching him and looked around. When he didn't find anyone, he used his thermal vision and saw a bulky figure not far from his location. Knowing who it was, he glared at the figure and walked away. "It's almost been a year, but I still can't forget what you said, nor can I forgive you, All Might." Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.